Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Nick. Why don't I hear you now? Oh.
Hey, look. You do that to me all the time, so there you go. Come back and bite me. All right.
Welcome back to North Carolina.
Yeah, thank you. What's going on?
Not much. Gal was here, but I guess he had a little glitch, so he'll be back in a few minutes.
In a jiffy.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software, Telestream's Wirecast software, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Did you have a chance to even play with your computer to see what's going on with vMix?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
All right.
I thought I installed some malware the other day. That was a little bit of a scare. I still think I may have. I don't know yet. We'll see.
It's probably something real stupid. It's always is.
Yeah.
So, how was your trip up north?
It was good. Funny enough, on the flight back, it was a bigger plane, three seats per side of the plane, so six seats per row. It was a much larger plane than the ones I took up. And they offer Wi-Fi, so I looked at the Wi-Fi options, and one of the options was free Wi-Fi with T-Mobile. I don't have T-Mobile, but our friend Brian has T-Mobile. So I texted him and I said, "Hey, do you have T-Mobile?" He said, "I do." I said, "Well, I'm going to use your phone number here and see what happens." All I had to do was put in his phone number, and it gave me free Wi-Fi. No verification.
Really?
No check, no auth. I was assuming it would send him a text message with a code, and then he was just going to forward me the code. No, nothing. Just, what is your phone number? And then a little captcha.
They'll probably get to it.
I don't think so.
Going to be that.
As he said, it's probably way too hard to try to verify.
It is.
Well,
actually, yeah, it is from the plane because they can do location and see that.
I just thought it was interesting that there was no verification whatsoever.
Very interesting.
Now, it was only for an hour, and it's probably not worth the hassle when it doesn't work. So, but I thought that was interesting. So, here's a tip for you: if you're flying, figure out somebody that has T-Mobile and just copy their cell phone number beforehand. You're good to go. Is that unethical? I don't know.
I wonder what would happen if somebody else on the plane used the same phone number. That if they don't verify, if they don't verify, I mean, it may not make any difference.
I don't think they verify. I don't think so. Now they may track the number, but yeah, I don't know. So yeah, if you're flying American and you have a friend that has T-Mobile, let them know beforehand you're going to use their cell phone number. You'll be good to go. Free Wi-Fi.
Welcome back, Gal.
Welcome. I was sitting and thinking to myself, it should have started already. I don't hear anyone. suddenly I discovered that I was disconnected. Good morning.
Good
How's it
morning.
going? What did I miss? So American and T-Mobile. Yeah, I remember that. I have a T-Mobile phone.
Yeah, but I don't. So I just
So
used my friend's T-Mobile number and it worked.
don't they send?
Nope.
No, they don't, because you're already in the air, right?
Yeah, that's probably part
Yeah,
of it.
I remember that. Yeah,
So
I remember. Yeah,
little life hack for
but I think it gives only an hour of internet, right?
it does. And fortunately my one flight was like 40 minutes, the other one was like an hour and 20, so it all worked out pretty well. And the speeds was quite quick. 25 megabits,
Yeah.
but 800 milliseconds ping, so
So what happens after the hour? It just cuts off, or you have to log in again?
So, well, it doesn't let you log in again. It's an hour of free Wi-Fi. The good thing
Oh,
about it though is it does if you have an iPhone, this is the reason that Apple's got so many people by the balls is with iMessage because it does allow free iMessage
Oh, not
on.
only that, not only that. Messenger,
Oh yeah, it allows
WhatsApp,
all of
all
those,
of those will work. Yeah.
but it allows iMessage, which for people in the Apple ecosystem is, I mean, I would say almost everybody I text has got iMessage. So I was able to send and receive text messages um, via the plane as well. And now Delta, Delta offers free iMessage, Facebook Messenger, and WhatsApp to everybody on their planes. Now I took my flight was long. It was almost 5.5 hours out to Seattle. Um, but I know they offered that. But yeah, American, and I think the Wi-Fi was $10 for the day or something like that, maybe.
Hmm.
Which wasn't bad, but I wasn't gonna pay for it.
So if you sit there and you get that Wi-Fi and it's over, do they give you? Well, did you have a chance to go over that hour?
Yeah, I could have it was
So
I think they call it T-Mobile One is what they call the
so they give you the
upgraded version.
option to purchase something.
Yeah, there was some
Okay.
kind of upgrade plan available. I don't it was something One, T-Mobile One, I think it was what it was called. I didn't really read it 'cause I didn't care. But yeah, there was an option to either purchase something through my carrier,
Mm.
well, through his carrier, and, or just outright purchase one of their packages.
Oh, that's nice. That is very nice. T-Mobile to do that.
Well, and that's interesting because, I mean, that is the benefit of going with one of those carriers like T-Mobile or Sprint that isn't Verizon or AT&T is they do a lot of those things. I know even Verizon, AT&T doesn't seem to have many of those, uh, I don't know what you'd call them, customer, rewards. I don't know what you'd call it, whatever you'd call something like that, but I know Sprint and T-Mobile, uh, because they're fighting for market share against a lot of those bigger companies, they offer a lot of
Mhm.
services like that. I know T-Mobile offers a whole bunch of God, do you remember what else T-Mobile offers? They have a whole
Well,
bunch of those things.
they offer they offer free roaming
Okay, yeah, that's big.
international. Yeah. Well, it's not exactly free. I think there are plans where you can add like $10 or something, and then you have free roaming.
Okay.
And there are plans where it's included. Um, and they have like perks. They have something called T-Mobile Tuesday, where they send out coupons, some deals, just
Mhm.
bunch of deals, stuff like that. Never used it actually. Uh, Noticed that it's around. Uh, they my program that is not the unlimited one. There's an unlimited one, but even though it's not unlimited, I have unlimited streaming, which is
That's
usually
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Or
usually what gets it's automatically toned down to DVD.
yeah, 480p.
Yeah, 480p, but it's free. So
And that's
that's
through
that's
what?
great.
Like Netflix and YouTube and stuff like that?
Basically all the major
Yeah.
streaming stuff. So YouTube is in it, and Netflix is in it. Hulu, all of those streaming, Spotify, all of them. It just switches, notches down the quality a bit, but you get it for free. So it's funny because the phone might complain because the phone has some, data measuring how much you're using. The phone might say, "Hey, you're close to the end of the month. You're reaching your limit." But when you check with the app, you see that you're not even halfway there. So that's
Yeah.
nice. That's a nice trick.
So they offer a lot of that stuff. I think Sprint offers some similar things, and um, the T-Mobile CEO is a very social guy. He does a whole bunch. He does a thing on Facebook every Sunday. I don't know if you've seen them before, Gal. John Ledger does a thing. It's called Slow Cooker Sunday, and he does a long live stream, like probably close to an hour on Facebook Live, and they go over and he cooks something. They do like a recipe, and God, he's been doing that for probably it's got to be over a year. I've seen it, and yeah, they're working hard to get that market share.
Yeah.
And are they merging with Sprint? One of they're either merging. One of them is merging together. Either Sprint's merging with T-Mobile or T-Mobile's merging with Sprint.
Yeah, I think it didn't work out
Yeah, but I
so
thought the
far.
SEC just approved something
Oh,
a couple weeks ago. Maybe I'm wrong.
no, there were talks. I mean, T-Mobile is very aggressive grow as far as growing up. And I think they purchased Sprint. I mean, Sprint is meh. Meh.
Hmm. All it says is that in 2019, John Ledger, the CEO of T-Mobile, has paid $131 million in Sprint merger-related costs
Huh?
just this year so far. He's all in. Of course, I can't read the article because it's on the Business Journal. So
Now, here's a story that I didn't even know that they had that. Says that Microsoft is dropping its 60-day password expiration policy, starting with the Windows 10 May 2019 update. Once removed, the preset password expiration settings should be replaced by organizations with more modern and better password security practices, such as multi-factor detection of password guessing attacks, detection of anomalous logon attempts, and the enforcement of banned password lists. So, is there a default setting? I mean, when you log into Windows 10, there is a default 60 days. I never had it. I mean, when I set up Kathy's machine, we set up a password and it's been there.
When you set up Kathy's machine, have you set it up with the Windows logon, the one that goes to the live?
No,
That's
local.
why I think that's what they're talking about.
Okay. Oh, so if you're using your
Yeah.
Microsoft login or whatever they call it,
Yes, exactly.
they were
if you're
saying
using a
It's not a bad thing, by the way. It's not like
no.
a bad idea.
To what?
That login, it scares some people. They think that Microsoft is able to track them
Oh,
better with that.
but
This is actually one of the services that I find Microsoft has done well when they implemented Windows 10 with that idea.
the
Nick,
the National Weather Service requires I'm part of their National Weather Service chat, which is a communication method for talking to local weather services. And they require 60-day password changes. The problem with those, I think you run into, Gal, though, is people like me that are lazy just end up adding characters to it. So you put in your password
that's what.
1, then 2, and then it's just a pain in the ass.
Oh,
Well,
So I can't
I do something else. I have like a base password, right?
Yeah.
Especially for there used to be one company that I worked with every 30 days needed to replace it. So I would end it with the year and the month.
Yeah.
So I always knew what the password was. I didn't forget. It's like,
I know.
what
And so
month
it's
is it? Oh yeah, okay.
I guess it's good that if a database gets leaked or something, like for example, you use the password somewhere else and it gets leaked, maybe that'll protect you, but in general, I don't think it makes your passwords any stronger. You're just appending garbage to the end of your password.
Oh, I agree. Look, change in general is good,
Yeah.
right? Not a problem, but I would, if I had my choice, right? I'd probably force some sort of automated change inside the database, make sure, the person knows how to get to the change, but that's it. That's what I do. I mean, I don't know my password. I use a password manager, right?
Yeah.
But I need to trust that my password manager cannot be accessed.
Well, but
That,
Microsoft is saying that the reason they dropped it is because a lot of companies complained about it, that that allows users to set up passwords, and they don't want that. They want to use their standards of passwords, and sometimes stronger and all that, because otherwise the user on the network can change it to something else when the time comes, and they
but
don't like it. So that's what they
Yeah, but
were
that
saying.
seems odd.
but that's controlled by GPO. I mean, I
I
think
don't know.
we're
That's what
group
they were.
policy.
That's what the rest of the story there was talking about, and that's what they're saying. Once removed, the preset password expiration setting should be replaced by organizations with more modern and better password security practices. That they
Sure.
wanted.
That
What?
seems very weird
Well,
because well, first of all, I would assume at a business like that, you wouldn't be logging into a live account to access Windows. You would be logging into a local, what does Microsoft call their,
yeah,
local user management server?
The Active Directory.
The domain, yeah, you'd be logging into
Yeah.
a directory and a domain locally. I don't know what the hell that would have you wouldn't be logging into, like, gal at hotmail.com into your Windows computer.
I don't know. That's what the rest of the story was. I didn't print it out,
Hmm.
but it was,
I'm gonna read this.
and they were saying that
I'll get back to you with the details.
it's a better. Yeah, get back with me, please.
Well, I wonder if the problem was, Gal, that even no matter what kind I wonder if even with group policy editor, you couldn't turn that off by default, which wouldn't surprise me. That would be typical Microsoft.
It wasn't a matter of turning it off. It was a matter of changing it to whatever you choose versus.
So maybe that's what it was. Maybe they just added the setting to actually configure instead of it being just automatic. That's still weird though.
Anyway.
I think
Um,
I think they're talking about setting a minimum and not forcing that minimum on them. So the idea is not setting it. So by removing the 60 days, right, then it doesn't force the companies to manage that.
mhm.
They can allow longer lived passwords. So here's the thing with passwords, okay? First of all, they're a very bad security measure. They're not a successful security measure. Because everybody tries to find a way of making them the easiest thing in the world to bypass for their own work. I mean, right? And then there are different policies of length and different policies of complexity. And complexity usually is measured incorrectly, right? It's measured by adding different type of symbols and different type of case, but those are not necessarily very effective against a machine that will attempt to read, right? It starts today that an effective password needs to be 17 to 18 characters long on the minimum, which is a very long phrase, right? So in order to make that effective and memorable for the person entering, right, it needs to be usually a phrase that they can say in their head, or it can come from dictionary words, and that wouldn't be a problem. It just needs to be something that you will not find in basic text. So let's say an absurd sentence like and something memorable like I'm trying to think of something that will be funny and yet
The
everybody
quick
will
brown
remember it.
fox jumped over the whatever that Windows font thing is. Quick
Yeah,
brown
well,
fox. There you go.
the quick brown fox is too easy because that's a that's a
I
phrase.
can't
right?
find a shoe for my third leg.
That's fantastic, right? Because it's a very vivid image, right? And and then again, it won't be something that is guessable by a computer. It won't be in any database of phrases, right? So even brute force, because there's enough characters there, creating finding with brute force guessing the right password will take a long time, like years. So this is a very effective password, right? And entering it is not very laborious because it's writing words that anybody who types all day, right? It'll be okay for them. And today everybody types all day, so it's not that bad, right? But then most of password security, by the way, where do you see the worst, but I mean the absolutely worst password enforcement today? Have you noticed? I think financial institutions have the worst
They do.
password rules.
Mine doesn't even require an upper lowercase character.
That I don't care about that, but I find them requiring my password to be 8 to 10 characters long.
And only
Right.
alphanumeric.
And only alphanumeric, no spaces. Like,
Yeah.
you let me put 32 characters long password. I'll drive something automatic, slap it on, and then it's a lot safer. If somebody gets your database of encrypted passwords, the chances of unencrypting my password will go low, right? So two-factor authentication with banks is almost exclusively based on a phone number.
Yep.
And of the phone number, especially cell phones, are the easiest to hack. It's just a call to the carrier asking to replace the SIM, right? And it's done like that. And the carrier's identification methods are usually flawed because they're based on a human pressing a few keys, right? And so every human can be manipulated. You claim you're a pregnant woman with a crying baby and you really need to get them to the hospital and you need to talk with a doctor or something. If you have the right tone, the person on the other end, he wants to be decent. He doesn't want to follow rules, right? So that's the human social engineering part. Doesn't really matter what rules you put in if if uh, if you still want to be human, if you don't want to be cold-hearted, you're hackable. So it's really important to understand that the measures, the technological measures, are not necessarily in place to help us stay secure. Back to the Windows thing, I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's changeable. It was always changeable. It's just that the default now is not going to be 60 days. That's all. It's going to be longer. I think a year.
But they will still require you to change it after a year or whatever.
I'm trying to find the details because one of the articles says something that a year is a good baseline, but I don't know if they set it up that way. Maybe they just removed the limitation.
Well,
Look, at home, the first thing I do with the machines at home is set them up to not require a password. I don't see any use of an in-home computer with a password. I understand that it's not secure, but I'm in my home. I don't lock all of the cabinets just to, I don't lock the fridge in order to open it and take food out.
Well, what if I come over and start playing on your computers?
So I think security starts by, let's call it the firewall, right? You need to understand who you're bringing in home.
Oh, so now you don't
And
want me in your house. Okay, that's fine.
Well, it's not you, it's me.
No, yeah, I don't.
I mean,
I
think
just
about
put
it,
one on
right?
my work computer, to be honest with you, for the longest time, because we work in such a small company. There's only like at the office at any time, there's only maybe 3 or 4 of us. For the longest time, I didn't have a password on my computer there. I just put one on.
Yeah. Well, on a desktop in a workplace,
Yeah.
if you don't have a cleaning crew that comes in without anyone being at the office,
Yeah.
right? I would say, yeah.
Yeah, we
I don't.
did. Now we do, and
Yeah,
we're in a
exactly. So when you have a stranger coming in unattended, that's when you start locking things in, right?
yeah.
One of the things I wanted to teach my kids is no doors. I mean, we have doors on all of the rooms, but we don't close them inside the house, right? Even when we go to sleep, the doors to the bedroom stays open, and um, that's that's a cultural thing, I think, right? There are people who really want to compartmentalize themselves inside their homes, and there are those who don't, and so nothing is really closed by a password. And I do encourage him, and we do use, but fingerprint locks on the phone.
Mhm.
Because when
Yeah.
you're outside your home, you have no control who has access to your phone sometimes, right? Especially if you leave it on a desk somewhere, school, anything. So with the fingerprint, which isn't very secure, right? But it's secure enough so you can leave something unattended for a few minutes and come back and get it. So stuff like that. Security needs to be basic. It needs to be useful. If
Well,
it prevents you from working, it's more like a jail than like the
but
other side of security.
but wait a second. Alan is saying something, and I was going to bring it up. I thought that if you don't have a password on another computer in the house, you cannot connect to it, copy files to it, from it. You cannot get into it.
I didn't say I'm not setting up a password. I'm setting up not to ask for the password. You can do auto login and stuff. So when the screensaver starts, when it wakes up, it doesn't ask for the password.
Oh,
It automatically logs on when it starts. You
okay.
can set it. You can set up Windows. There's actually a tool from Microsoft that does it very easily from sysinternals. If the people on the listening to the show doesn't know what sysinternals are, go search for it. They have tons of great tools. Yeah, they're ugly. There might be command line tools. They might be very, very unintuitive, but they're very good system tools from Microsoft. Sysinternals has a tool called auto logon, I think, and I'll paste the link in a moment in the chat. And auto logons allows you to set up a username password that will be entered upon logon. It's not very secure, right? But then again, the idea is opening up the computer. So I wouldn't use it in a work environment, but I would use it at home.
Okay. All right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And by the way, that limitation of no passwords to access network resources, that is something that is set up in the security policies. And using SecPol, which is a tool to edit those security policies, I'm not sure it exists on Windows Home Edition, though. So sometimes you need to grab it from another location. You can change that and make it more open if you want. Not very recommended, especially if you have. Yeah, well, go ahead.
I don't have a password. I'm able to access my other computers via the network.
What do you mean you don't have a password?
I do not have a password on this computer. There's no password set.
Yeah, but can another machine open a share on your computer?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, I can see other computer shares that I've hooked to.
Yeah, on what type of machine? Not another Windows machine.
Yeah.
And that other Windows machine doesn't have a password?
No, the other one I think does have a password.
That's the difference. So the default security policy says that no password accounts cannot be used to connect to other shares.
Okay.
That's just the default, the way it's set up. They made the change in Windows 7, I think, maybe Vista. I think Vista, they introduced the home group network. Remember that idea? Yeah. So it still exists, by the way, which is no, not that awful. For anyone who doesn't want to muck up with all of the settings, the home group setup process is a very simple way to hook up a bunch of computers to see one another and still be somewhat secure if you have other stuff on the network. I mean, if you have a Chinese-made IP cam on your network, right? Those are pretty easily hackable. Most of them. Okay, not all of them, right? Most of them. So those are a great gateway into your network. So you want some of the connections to be, I wouldn't call it secure, but to be at least opaque to the rest of the network, right? And so the default setting of that home group setup is a good one. Yeah, it's a pain to set up on the first, but it's still easier to set up than understanding how Samba works, SMB, the underlying protocols, and how to set up shares properly and all that. So
yeah, that's what I have all set up.
Yeah.
I never found home group to work reliably. I found it would just disconnect. Computers would say couldn't find the host name. I don't know. I didn't. Let me be honest about it. I didn't tinker around with it a whole lot, but I remember when I was like, oh, look, I can see another computer on my network. Let's set this up. And I would set up. I just never felt like it worked reliably. I'm sure it was me, but I don't know.
Well, one thing I do find is, especially us, those who feel they understand more, we tend to sway away from the default settings of almost everything. And that's when things that needs to be fully automated, that's when they break. So the moment you set up, you tinkered something with your DNS on the router or something, things start to be flaky. But for anyone who doesn't really care about managing all of the details in their local network, right? Especially those, hand off complete control to their ISP provider, stuff like that. Everything that's automated, home group works pretty well there.
Hey,
I can't
Mike.
say it's an Apple-based. The customers know nothing. Will do everything for them. and we won't let them touch anything type of works best. But
I
think
always use work group since Windows 3.1.
work groups, yeah. No, the home group was like a
Yeah,
special set work group. But yeah.
yeah. But I mean, even now, after if I have to reboot a computer on the network, the next time I try to connect to it, it wants to know the username and password, even if you tell it to remember it. It says what is, and I have to go and check it on the other computer to remember. But it does ask you to log in if you want to go into the drive.
I think there are ways around that, but yeah.
I'm sure there are, but I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a warm, fuzzy feeling to know that okay, yeah, if somebody is trying to get in, it's not going to be as easy, which is fine.
That's why you should always keep your computer off if you're not using it.
That yeah, I have two of them I have that are like that.
Even if you are using them, come on.
Yes, I agree. That's a good recommendation, and it helps the environment as well, which I'm king of. So please keep your computer off. If you're watching this show, turn your computer off. Thank you. The PSA brought to you by DeltaForce.net.
Alexa, computer off.
Mr. Phillips is here. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey,
Good
Mike.
morning, Mike.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Hey.
Finally
Testing.
woke up,
1,
huh?
2, 3.
Oh, I've been awake. As
Oh.
a dog, I'm on the air. I won't say it.
So, Nick, remember
am
we
I.
were talking about charter in New York?
Oh, yes. I actually heard about this when I was up there.
Yeah, Charter Communications won't be kicked out of New York after all. 9 months after a New York government agency ordered Charter to leave the state over an alleged failure to comply with merger conditions, state officials have announced a settlement that will let Charter stay in New York in exchange for further broadband expansions. The settlements will enforce new version of the original merger conditions and require a $12 million payment, about half of which could help other ISPs deploy broadband. So that was something about them with the speed and with the area where they're going to cover that they said they're going to expand and they did not. And New York told them to get out, right?
Yeah. Well, it was more of just pandering. Now they did have to pay a whole bunch of people. I don't know if it was the same issue or another issue, but I was talking to family when I was home, and they all said that they got uh, like $60 or $70 credits on their account, and I don't know if it had something to do with the merger or not, but they did have to make payments. Yeah, but we knew they weren't going to kick them out. What the New York State was going to operate the ISP? I mean, really? come on.
Right.
Yeah. So
They were going to put AOC there at the head.
oh yeah. She
Yeah.
I'm sure should be her and Chuck Schumer. I'm sure they could run a great
Yep,
ISP. with
that's
all
it.
their real world knowledge. They're not going to expand. They won't do any of the expansion they're supposed to, and then they'll pay their $12 million, and then they'll go on their merry way.
Yeah, they're stupid not to, because it's. I mean, come on.
What are they
All
gonna
that
do to 'em?
investment and you're going to leave?
Yeah, well, it's not even they're going to leave. If New York State kicked Charter out, nobody would have internet. I mean, unless you live in the city and you've got the city's got Optimum and FiOS are very well expanded in New York City and Long Island and Queens and Manhattan. But outside of that, you have little pockets where Verizon exists, but the whole rest of New York State is almost exclusively Spectrum, with little ISPs here and there, but and then some Verizon hubs, but the whole state's Spectrum, or Charter, whatever they're called.
Charter is the mother.
Yep, that's them.
So what's happening, Mike?
Just sitting here listening to the dog bark.
Oh, no.
My neighbor's dog. Something's going to have to change.
Don't
But
say
what do you
anything
do?
that you're gonna regret later.
I'm not on the air. I'm not going to regret what I do off the air either.
Your
So
Honor, on
what?
April 28th, Mike Phillips said on the air.
Microsoft has published a support document warning Windows 10 users that the impending May 2019 update may not install on their system if they use external USB storage devices or SD cards. The OS maker cited problems with inappropriate drive assignment as the main reason for blocking the May 2019 update. Inappropriate drive assignment can occur on eligible computers that have an external USB device or SD memory card attached during the installation of the May 2019 update, the company said. For this reason, these computers are currently blocked from receiving the May 2019 update. Sounds like now you have a key, a hardware key to stop Windows updates. Just plug in a USB.
Notice it says May. So it
Well,
may block.
no, it's not May block. It's May, the month.
No, it made the month, yeah, but they don't say it'll block all of the machines that are like that.
Oh, well.
So it might work, it might not.
I mean, I really don't understand what they're talking about because it's the operating system that assigns, and the operating system should know about this. And
I think this is exactly the problem. It's because it's the operating system that assigns,
yeah,
and what happens after a reboot? Sometimes the letter you get assigned, the drive letter you get
will
assigned
change.
before that, I think that's what they're scared about, and
Oh.
that can cause data loss. So they're blocking it to not happen automatically or something.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous.
That's what I'm reading
Everybody,
between the lines.
but everybody uses external, whether it be a flash or a hard drive to
Yeah,
back up to.
they're saying only if during the upgrade
Yeah.
that thing is plugged in. You're not using. I don't know. I don't have external storage plugged in all the time. I know there are people who have external hard drives. Like a really large hard drive outside. It helps them keep their active work separate. But
What about map drive? What's the difference?
map drives probably cannot be ever mapped to C.
I don't.
C
What?
colon.
Are you saying? Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not
I think
understanding the story. Are they talking about a C? I mean, an external drive that it's actually your main drive?
that's what they're
No.
scared of. They won't mention it because that sounds like really ridiculous. But I mean,
Yeah.
with all of the data loss that they had reported from previous upgrades,
Mhm.
right? I'm guessing this is one parameter that was probably common to a few of those situations.
All right.
Anyway, that's my understanding reading between the lines. Not something that they spell out.
I would
Oh.
like to ask everybody something. So, we've been having this conversation on the Infection Podcast for a couple of weeks now, but we're a little bit insulated, and our whole group is a group of gamer people. But there's a couple of countries, Iran, Nepal, and a couple of other ones that have started banning games like Fortnite and PUBG because they're saying it's unhealthy for the youth. I wanted to get your guys' perspective from being outside of my realm on what your thoughts are on that. What you think that means.
What is your question? Whether video games are unhealthy for the youth?
Well, if not if they're necessarily unhealthy for the youth, but if they're they're so bad that in Nepal, for example, the telecom barred any ISP from delivering traffic to and from Epic Games and a Bluehole, who produces the other game. What do you? I mean, that I guess that's more what I'm asking about than the actual game itself being unhealthy for. I mean, you could make the argument that anything is unhealthy for kids, but yeah, what are your thoughts on countries mass banning a video game?
I can tell you as a parent of a teenager who plays those games, right? I don't see any problem with the games themselves. It's not the content of the game that is a problem.
Correct.
The real problem that I see with especially teenagers and making these games really available to them is they get hooked on it.
Yeah.
And it engulfs it sucks up their entire day.
Agreed.
Completely. Whether the government should ban it or not, you know, banning it is an interesting measure. I'm not saying that's the way I would have approached it, but I can understand where it's coming from. So if a country politicians, right, they start seeing this as something taking over the nature of raising kids or whatever, because back in Israel, there were articles around this, how Fortnite is taking over the kids, right? And especially during holidays, those kids would be those same kids that a year before would spend time with friends, would go outside, would do things, right? The next year, and when this was out, they were all hooked up to their computers with their headphones, shouting at their peers, right? And that would be their entire day. When you look at it from the side, it is a concerning scene. It is a complete change. It's a complete shift in behavior. Banning the game is it seems like an easy measure, right? Because technically it's possible, right? You can switch off some switch and prevent that from happening. Whether it's the right course, because eventually there'll be more games like this, more and more and more. It's all part of education, I think, at the end.
What about you and what about Mike and Amnon? What are your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, look, it's a frustrating question because no, I don't believe the government should be telling us what we can and can't do. To some extent, the government's role is to protect us as a society, and that is to have a military to mint coins. They have some art in the United States. Our belief system is they have a right to do what they wanted, what they were given in the Constitution. Now, as far as other countries are concerned, they don't have the same freedoms we do. They can do whatever the heck they want. If people don't like it, they leave the country. Unfortunately, that's the way that works. Now, as far as the concept of should the United States consider following suit and banning games so that we reduce the instances of violence and mental disease in the country, no, that's nonsense. That I would, having said that, that there's no question in my mind that movies, books, video games, anything that puts the mind in a destructive mode have an effect on that person's thinking. Listen to me carefully. There's no question that every time I read a book, if I read a biography, it has an effect on my mind. So yes, there is a cause and effect. I have never seen any research that establishes that someone who plays a violent video game goes and buys a gun and goes out and starts shooting school kids. Now, the complication is that there are mass shooters who like to play video games. So you kind of get a reverse correlation. You get a reverse correlation that may not be real. The fact is that it's a fallacy is to say that all video games or video games cause people to become mass shooters. It's not true. The other correlation, the inverse of that is, do mass shooters play video games? Well, depending on their age, there's a really good chance that they do. So, what I'm saying is that this reaction by a country to ban video games based on their perception is typical political nonsense where politicians think they know how to provide the best health care, the best mental care. They know how to spend your money better than you do. They're more compassionate than you are. It's just all nonsense. Does that answer your question?
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting perspective on it. I think that's
Well, it's the
similar to
right
where
one, but go ahead.
well, I mean, I think I fall similar into that as well. What about you, Amna? What are your thoughts on this? The outright banning.
I think we've seen enough quote unquote studies and reports that said that every time something happens, they blame the gamers. Every time there is a shooting, and then there are reports that come out and say, "No, there's no evidence that that does it." I think they should leave it up to the family, and to add to whatever Mike was saying, it's like saying, "Well, yeah, that mass shooter was breathing oxygen in, so that's bad for us." Come on. There is. It takes how many kids play games out there? Fortnite.
Fortnite's got
What was the
hundreds
last
of
week?
hundreds of millions of active
Yeah.
users.
How many of these kids went out and shot people? Come on. I mean, it's the same thing about drivers. So what? If you're driving a car, you get into accidents. So that means that something happened that because you're driving, you got to be, or because you're a bad driver, you decided to plow into. No, there are other variables that come into something like that. Does it give them a the idea, or teaches them how to handle a piece of I mean, like a rifle or a machine gun? This, I doubt it. I mean, a lot of these things, if you didn't actually hold a gun, a real gun, and go out there, and you see how these guns are being held on the screen, you go out there try to use it, and you're going to find out that you're laying on your butt somewhere. So what? That doesn't happen on the game. Well, so I don't think so. I don't think that. I think that those governments are just, they have nothing else to do. They just
What
the
I want to
uh,
go back to a point that Gall made real quick. Gall said you said something to the effect of kids, you know, on holidays and the year before, they'd be doing whatever with their friends, and now they're playing with their friends online. And Gall, I'd challenge you and say, is that necessarily a bad thing?
no, but that's why I mentioned it. It's just a very drastic shift in behavior.
Yeah.
And when you see a drastic shift in behavior in masses, right? That is a concern.
sure.
And I believe that's what I wanted to ask when they uh, just because you read it, the source, uh, are they banning this because they're afraid of violence, or
No.
are they banning this because they've seen that this is a major shift in behavior? You mentioned Nepal, right? I don't think Nepal is afraid of mass shooters. I don't think they do have terrorist incidents there, but I don't think that's what they're trying to ban. They're trying probably to change the fact that, you know, if you have a kid that everything, his entire world is through the prism of that video game, right? Then he no longer uh, or tries to participate less and less, right, in family traditions, less and less in uh, um, in interaction with the outside world. That's a concern. Come on, this is this is Ready Player One dystopia type. scenario. And I think that's what scares most parents when they see their children like that. And that is probably what drove the politics around those banning. That's what I'm thinking.
So in Nepal, the quote from the director of the telecommunications authority that put the ban in place said, quote, "We have ordered a ban on PUBG because it is addictive to children and teenagers." So that was Nepal. And Iraq, what do they have, a prime minister or whatever? They say they're banning it based on negative effects the games have on youth. So they're both pretty similar. And
well, then they should ban cigarettes, and they should ban sweets, and they should.
Well, and then that's it, and that's the
part.
But
that's for adults.
Yeah, but see that, and that's kind of the stance and the argument that Brian and I have taken about it is, for without getting too much into the gaming aspect of it, there are over 30 of these. These games are known as what is called a battle royale style. That's this genre of game. There are over 30 of these games active right now, and they've just banned 2 of them. So what about the other 28 that are all still allowed to be played and able to be purchased and downloaded in that country?
Mm-hmm.
What about they haven't hit the news yet?
Well, but that's the kind of the concern is you're saying, oh, well, it's bad for you. It's child safety is cited for the reason. But I mean, when I was in middle school and late elementary school, it was Call of Duty on the Xbox 360. I would get home from school on Friday afternoon and I'd play it all Friday night, all Saturday during the day, and all Sunday. That's what I do every single week.
Nick, when we were kids, it was AD&D. It had nothing to do with computers.
No, but that's the point. Is that's it though. It shifts. It's always something that takes your time. It's comic books. It's okay. Whatever.
So let ask yourself now: if you didn't have those games, what would you have done that weekend?
I would have played another game.
No. If you didn't have games,
I can't answer that question.
You sit and watch TV.
Well, yeah,
you okay, I mean, it's
and before that, it was TV. That
was bad for you. Yeah.
See, I don't remember that debate if that was a thing. I'm too young for the whole TV is bad debate.
The A-Team was like Satan's work. Come on, man.
So I don't know. It frustrates me because as Mike and Amnon said, and as you said, Gal, you have a son, right? If you don't want him playing the game, you need to crack the whip. It's not, I mean, that's your decision. That's your and your wife's decision, or whoever's, in charge of the kid's decision to be making. And the fact that these governments have just, when there's 30 games and you say 2 are bad, but the other 28 that are almost identical are okay because, we don't really understand how it all works. I mean, it makes them look ignorant to start. And then I honestly, I don't think it does anything.
Most fears, right, stem from ignorance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Especially, right, the fear of something new that only the kids understand. And me as an adult, responsible adult, especially a politician, right, that isn't responsible for the well-being of others, right? If I don't understand it and causes a shift of behavior, and I don't take the time to understand it, because who has the time, right? Then I'm scared of it. Then I'd rather block it. But that is just politics. That is just populism. That it's very, very simple rhetoric. Hey, I was able to do something against it, right? That's just it's the usual bullshit that we see everywhere, right? Whether it is merited or not, no, it stems from fear. Any change, right? Whenever a debate is should something happen or not, the one and this is the part that people in general, they don't like the idea, but reality is when something is put on the table on a debate whether something should happen or not, the fact of the matter is that it will happen. It doesn't really matter whether you want it to happen or not. It's already happening. We're discussing it. That means it's going to happen in one way or another. So the discussion should probably shift from should it happen, or how are we going to make sure that when this happens, it has a positive impact, right? How can we shift behavior around it? How can we create, the marketing around it to be positive instead of negative? How can we make use of it? There was another fad a few years before Fortnite, and that was Minecraft. And the entire spin around Minecraft was positive because it was creative. It had monsters in it. It had fighting. But it was also super creative, right? You had teachers using it to teach. You had the entire fad. Nobody was talking about ban Minecraft, right? There was concern. Kids are spending too much time on Minecraft. But there was also this vibe of this might be something positive. And I'm pretty sure there's a teacher somewhere who's using Fortnite, right, to explain the world in some way. And he's probably an innovator in that. But it's a lot easier to go to the fear because this is an aggressive game after all. Even though there's no blood and there's no gore, right? It is an aggressive game. It's a survival game. It's constricted in time, unlike Minecraft, right? So the discussion will always come, and it's always a wrong discussion. When you're asking whether this should happen or not, automatically you're having a wrong discussion. That's my feeling, right? But politicians, they go to the easy grab. And the easy grab is, should this is good or this is wrong, right? Good or wrong, bad or good
Black
or bad.
and white.
Black and white, that's a stupid discussion to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I'm pretty sure, look, the states, right? United States, the banning of alcohol, that was a black and white discussion, right? A black and white decision. And until today, you see the the remains of that here in North Carolina. I find it so bizarre as an outsider, right? That this capitalist nation, right, has everything completely free. Hey, even medicine, right? It's completely free. It's completely private. But alcohol is only sold by the government.
Well, that's in North Carolina, though.
That's
yeah,
everywhere.
I know.
I find that to be credibly bizarre coming from New York. You don't have to live out of the country for
It's
that
in
to
a
be
lot of
crazy.
states, apparently.
Yeah.
That is so strange, right?
I find it bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
because they can make money.
yes, but it started, right? It started because of the discussion
The
in the
prohibition,
beginning of
yeah.
is this right or is this wrong? And somebody decided that it's wrong because it was good for their politics then, right? And this we're talking about 20s, right? So this is like a bad discussion that started 100 years ago. So it's like this is an example of where these discussions can get you, and eventually your question, right? What drives them? Usually the wrong questions. Concern about the unknown.
Yeah. All right. Well,
talking about games. I mean, I just thought about it. Hannah, my daughter, is taking electrical engineering, and one of the classes they were talking about games and about 3D sort of games, and she said the professor asked, "So, which games do you guys play that are actually 3D that you?" And Hannah said she raised her hand and she said, "When I was a little girl, I was playing Castle Wolfenstein." And she said the professor looked at her and said, "Castle Wolfenstein? How old are you?" And she said they hit it right off. But the thing is, she was playing it. That was gore. Hannah
Back then,
didn't.
yeah.
Hannah didn't. There's nothing that rubbed on her from that game.
What are you talking about? The moment she'll see a Nazi, she'll shoot him.
Yeah, well. So it's you
But
can always take something to an extreme.
well, ID Software, the developers of Castle Wolfenstein, they did something ingenious. Instead of just putting a generic bad guy, unidentifiable, right?
Mhm.
They did something. They took an image that was so hated everywhere, right?
Yeah, okay.
And let you go rampage. I
Yeah, you
don't
can't do that
remember.
anymore.
I don't remember, right? I don't remember any uproar about that game,
No.
right? Think about it.
But that's very controversial now these days because for the Call of Duty 2 years ago did their Call of Duty World War II game,
Okay.
and they got a lot of flack from people for not having Nazi symbols and stuff in the game because it was inaccurate. They just made up a symbol. The whole game was based around World War II, and they didn't put it in there because for whatever reason they thought it was bad
Offensive
or
to somebody.
I mean, not that it's
Well,
offensive, but it's talking about. I mean, the whole point of the game is World War II.
yes, yes, but I can see the problem. Uh, I had a question about this actually from a coworker, not about the game, but he likes to listen to a German rock band. I don't remember the name right now, and they had a video clip not too recently, which was sort of a social commentary about German history, and one of the one of the parts of the clip discusses Nazi Germany, and there's a Nazi dressed officer and concentration camp prisoners, uh, um, depicting Jews, of course, uh, and um, and there was an uproar in Germany about that video clip and about how dare they uh, insulted. And of course, there was also uproar from Jewish organizations about that video clip. And so he says, you're an Israeli and a Jew, and how do you feel about this? And he let me listen to some of the songs and see some of the clips. They're very well produced, and the clip was a social commentary about Nazism and how that was a wrong turn, and the clips also depicts the concentration camp prisoner taking over and annihilating the the Nazi images in the clip. It was anti-Nazi, but and I explained it to him. When somebody tells a joke and asks too soon, with Nazi Germany, even though we're talking about the 40s, the 1940s, right? There are still people leaving that have experienced this, and the images themselves, they are a trigger. They are an emotional trigger that is so fierce that it can be a problem. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't talk about it, but I'm saying understand the triggers. And I think that's what Call of Duty did there, right? They understand the triggers. I would definitely. I'm pretty sure there's a modding community which managed to put in the symbols back to the true face,
I
right?
mean, maybe.
Yeah,
but
and
what makes it okay for Wolfenstein to do it? When did that come out? The 80s?
But it's the era.
it doesn't make it okay.
Well,
No,
but
don't get me wrong. It doesn't make it okay the same way it
But-
doesn't make womanizing in the 50s okay.
but hold on a second though. But as you said, there was no I can't imagine there was outrage in mid 1980s when Wolfenstein came out. There would have been outrage, and I can understand why Activision would have done that, because there would have been outrage about putting those symbols in their game. But when you're that's like that's like the History Channel running a series about World War II and not including anything to do with Nazism or Germany.
Oh,
How
first of all, I
could you
agree
do
with you. I think they should have put it there, but you and me both know, right, that would have hurt their sales.
Mhm.
And the only thing that
Probably.
matters to Activision is not history, it's sales. So
Bingo.
let's first of all, let's agree on that. Once we put that on the table, right, I would think that it would be very interesting if Activision would charge an extra, I don't know, $5, right, for the realistic DLC package and see how much they sell. Because I think if they would have done that distinction, they would have made even more. Just because of the controversy, right?
Yeah.
They would create a controversy, but that would be on the DLC, and they'll be able to pull it off if it created havoc.
I just find things like that in a historical context interesting. I've always found that interesting, specifically with Nazism and that whole thing, because I've never seen it not I don't know how to phrase this. I've never seen it not depicted in a historical reference, right? There's no games that are making like, oh, in this video game, you are the Nazi, and you like you've never seen that. It's always in a historical war or some type of historical element, and it's either games that take two stances, it's either in or it isn't. And there's
But
outrage from either the people that say, hold on a second, this is not historically accurate, or people that say this shouldn't be in the game because it's offensive. I've always
yeah,
found that interesting.
but you have a good point. That game specifically, that was a multiplayer game, right?
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been in the multiplayer, it would have been in the campaign.
Okay, but as a
I guess.
multiplayer game, right, you could play both sides.
Yeah, but
I'm guessing that's the source of the choice of not going with the real symbol.
yeah, but there's no story in the multiplayer. That's the one
It
thing.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The moment you give the game a certain design, right, and now you throw in multiplayer, and you let, because when you play Star Wars, you can be the Empire or you can be the Rebels, right?
True.
And although the Empire are the bad guys, that doesn't make you a bad guy. But when you mix in, right, if you start slapping on the Empire Nazi symbols, then you're lighting a flame. It's all about human perception at the
That's
end, right?
true. Yeah.
Sure.
I think if this wasn't a multiplayer game, they could have probably went away. It could have passed critique, but because it was a multiplayer game, then Nazi symbol needs to go out the door.
So it was a 3D game.
Oh, but don't worry though, they still had the mode in there called Nazi Zombies. That mode was still stayed in the game after we can't put the symbols in the game. We've got a game mode called that. So that's still in there.
Yeah.
And that's a single player module.
No, it is not. But you're killing
Nazi-
zombies that are Nazis.
Yeah, but nobody's playing a zombie.
I mean,
That's what I
no.
mean. So it's like not a single player you can play with game, but it's a single-sided game, right? You can't be the other side.
Yes. Well,
So
you can be modded to play the other side, though. I don't know.
Probably, yeah. Modding is an entire world of its own.
I always found things like that interesting, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry to
that's
derail.
no, it's
No, it
good
was an
though.
interesting talk. Yeah.
So who has a .org domain here? Anybody?
Mm,
No,
no, I never
I
bought
have
one.
a few.
I have a friend with the .org though.
So ICANN is proposing allowing unlimited fee increases for .org domain names, which currently are allowed to increase a maximum of 10% annually. That 10% annual cap on fee increases came about after the huge public outcry that ensued in 2006 when a comparable proposal to eliminate price caps was made and successfully opposed by the public. It seems that ICANN did not learn from history. And Nat Cohen explains why the new proposal to eliminate price caps is a bad idea. Similar proposals exist for the .info, .biz, and .asia top-level domains and are all open for public comment now. .org public comment period ends tomorrow. If these unlimited fee increases are permitted, it is likely that VeriSign will seek to further increase their fees for .com and .net. Now, .net has been going up slowly every year. .com has been pretty solid for quite a few years. So, now it becomes a real business just for the registrars to sell domain names. And unlimited fee increases. That means that they can raise it up whenever they feel like it, every month. Oh, another dollar. Oh, another $2. And I'm not saying that today the .org is what it was when it was invented. It was for organizations, but today a lot of people are using it because the name exists. The name that they want exists in the .org TLD, but not in the .com. So they use it, and they're allowing it now for years now, not just now, for individuals to use the .org domain name. But if it starts going up and up and up, it's hurting nonprofits, and a lot of the nonprofits, yeah, quite a few of them are. I wish my company was as profitable, but a lot of them really don't have uh, the money to pay for it. And I host quite a few .orgs that are small organizations that have no money for that. So that is kind of I don't understand what ICANN is trying to do. It is kind of ridiculous.
You think
Well,
we'll see domains? I mean, if a registrar could, as you said, make it $1 more per month, I mean that you would see the demise of the domain name. And who the hell's going to have a personal domain name? Am you're really gonna you're going to have all the domains you have? You'll consolidate. You'll have one domain name, and everything will be under that. Everything will be under DeltaForce.net.
Well, I mean, you could
I mean,
do that.
You're going to pay $40, $50, $60, $70 a month for computers2know.com? Why would you?
No, I wouldn't. You're right. You're right.
The
At
end of
that
the end of the
point,
domain name. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'd cancel every single one of my personal domains. I wouldn't keep any of them.
yeah,
Stupid.
and all it's going to do is it's not like somebody's going to go and jump on Computers 2K Now or on Radar Gaming or whatever. It's not something that.
what are you talking about? It's going to become a porn site.
Yeah, right.
But
Mhm.
honest to God, that's what happens when you let your domain expire.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff will stop too. The domain, what do they call that? Sitting when they buy it and put ads on it.
Squatter. Oh,
Squatting.
yeah.
Spotting.
Yeah, I mean that'll cease to exist as well. Those companies can't afford to do it. Wouldn't be able to afford to do it. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it'd be a good thing. Who knows?
Not sure.
We'll see what
The-
happens after tomorrow.
Is that when their ICANN is meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Didn't you say there's a hosting provider that hosts .org domains for free?
Yeah, one and one.
Yeah, that's a cool
Yeah.
little tip.
Yep. But it's not just .org. I'm sorry. it's non-profit. You have to be a 503c,
Yeah, that's useful to know. That's a cool
501c, whatever.
501c3, 501c3 or something like that.
Yeah. Then you can, and you have a .org, then it's free. Absolutely.
Very cool.
So Microsoft had been planning to remove its popular Paint app from Windows 10. But the company has now reversed course.
Thank God.
Huh?
Thank God.
He says.
Man, when you need to just like highlight something in a picture real quick, it is so much freaking easier to use Paint than Photoshop.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Microsoft has been warning Windows 10 users for months that Paint would be removed. And those warnings vanished in the latest May 2019 update, 1903. Yes, Paint, MS Paint will be included in 1903. This came from a senior program manager for Windows at Microsoft. It will remain included in Windows 10 for now. Microsoft previously marked Paint as deprecated, meaning it was an inactive development and could be removed in future releases of Windows. I mean, still doesn't mean that it's not going to be removed later on, but
yeah.
But they did provide Paint 3D, so there's a replacement already.
Yeah, but it's garbage.
Yeah, I know. I haven't.
They make it very complicated. Now,
well, I mean, Paint is garbage as well. So
it's not though. The use for Paint is you take a screenshot and you need to zoom in on an area of your screenshot. Paint is great. It loads instantly. There's no like Photoshop. Jesus Christ! It takes 4 hours to launch Photoshop on my computer.
It's not an art.
No, but it's for quick little things.
Yeah.
I need to highlight this area to show Amnon, hey, there's a problem on this thing.
Yeah.
Put a little yellow box around it. It's great.
Don't say it's not for art. I had a friend, a colleague back in Israel when we were working. He could paint the Mona Lisa on Paint. It was amazing.
That's a good use of your company's time.
It was it was the army.
Oh yeah, even better.
Yeah. No, but he was talented. I mean, and he made it a challenge of always using Paint for his artwork.
Yeah, that's almost like painting the Mona Lisa with ASCII.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if they do get rid of Paint, I do want to make a recommendation, not for a Paint application, but there is a program. I don't know if any of you here use it. It's called ShareX.
Yeah, I use it every day. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I used to use Windows screenshot, just control print screen, paste it into Paint because it copies it to the clipboard, and then crop my little area or add my thing to it. But there's this program called ShareX, and you can do all of those things like draw a circle around, highlight something, and then within the same menu also take the screenshot and then automatically have it upload to Dropbox or Imgur or numerous other image services. So if you're somebody that does a lot of screenshotting and you need to make simple modifications, you really need to use ShareX. And it'll do GIF videos and stuff like that. It's awesome. Big fan.
Yeah. One note though, ShareX, while it is a fantastic, and I agree, it's fantastic. I use it every day at work. Is for screenshotting. It is for screen sharing. So by default, everything you screenshot, it uploads automatically, and the default I think is Imgur, IMGUR.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to keep yourself private, then go to the settings, disable the automatic upload, and then use it. Especially if you're going to work, do it in a work setting where you want to keep stuff private.
What I do is I have an Imgur account. I have it upload to an album that is not public. But I can share the link publicly, but the album, I guess, is not public. I'm sure my stuff is leaked, but whatever. But you can have it go to Dropbox and a whole bunch of other places too.
Yeah, exactly. So especially if you're working in a place where, I don't know, you're screenshotting on a screen share with a customer, you don't want that going anywhere outside of your computer. So take note. It is fantastic. I agree. It is a great.
I used to use Gaizo, Gay XZO, or whatever it was called. But somebody turned me on to ShareX probably 2 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
I've been using up until 3 months ago. I've been using an application that I've been using for probably over 10 years from a site called donationcoder.com. If you like tinkering with your PC and like innovative ideas for small apps, donationcoder.com is an awesome place. The guy who established that site goes by the alias Mouser. He created a really great community of people who really like coding for fun, writing small application stuff. And there's a very lively community there with a lot of good apps. The Screen Captor, I think that's the name. The Screen Captor application is Screenshot Captor. That's the name. Screenshot Captor application is the one I've been using for years now, only to be replaced by ShareX recently. And he has a bunch of other applications that he wrote. So definitely take a jab at that site. Really, really good. The only reason I moved to ShareX was
because you like new things.
I always like new things. But I've tried ShareX a couple of years ago, and still remained in Screen Captor. Actually, Screen Captor has support for ShareX to use ShareX as a conduit to automatically upload things. So definitely, that's how I learned about ShareX, through Screen Captor. What changed was ShareX has a very unique method of capturing scrolling images. So let's say you have an application where you want to grab the entire long list that you need to scroll through it in order to capture it. ShareX does it better than the screenshot capture, and that's where I move. So especially if I need to, there's a long list and I need to scroll through it, let ShareX, focus on the section of the screen, then scroll through it. It grabs all the images and then combines them to a single clean image. So that's what caused me to move to that. But yeah, definitely take a look at Donation Coder and ShareX.
Put the put
donationcoder.com.
the link. Yeah. Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
For your show, E-Trade is getting ready to let its approximate 5 million customers trade cryptocurrencies on its platform, according to a person familiar with the matter. The firm will start by adding Bitcoin and Ethereum and will consider adding other currencies in the future. So Bitcoin is even though I think it fell this past week.
I don't know. I haven't watched it.
That's E-Trade. E-Trade now here's a name. That's interesting. Of
Well, I
course,
mean, everybody's trying to get in on the game because nobody knows where it's going to end up.
yeah.
Bitcoin is actually at 5,300.
And that's a lot lower than what it was. I don't know. I just remember saying.
I wasn't watching it. Last time I looked at it, it was either 51, 52, or 53, somewhere in that neighborhood. It hasn't moved much in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Who do we have online?
Hi, yeah, this is Jamie. I was just wondering, do you know how to use desired configuration management in Configuration Manager? I'm trying to use a PowerShell script to change some registry values for the current user. I was wondering, do you know how to do that?
I'm not sure I got
So-
the beginning of your question.
Oh, fuck this. How about I want to fuck your ass? And I was
What?
Democrat.
Okay. All right. Another thing, Mike, and you're gonna be able to shed some thoughts about it. Amazon is discussing with various large music rights holders regarding the launch of a high fidelity music streaming platform, and that at least one major record company has already agreed to license it. News outlet Music Business Worldwide reported last week. S. Corbett shares that MBW has heard this whisper from several high placed. Let me go over this. Amazon new tier.
Following very much at all of what you're saying.
You what?
I'm not following very much at all.
Okay, a new hi-fi. That's why I want to go past all this rigmarole here. It says Amazon's new tier will likely be in the region of $15 a month. It's expected to launch before the end of 2019. It's a better bit rate, better than CD quality, said one source. Amazon is working on it as we speak. They're currently scoping out how much catalog they could get from everyone and how they'll ingest it. The best known existing high def music streaming offering comes from Tidal, whose Tidal Hi-Fi subscription tier costs $19.99 per month and offers CD quality, lossless streams at 44.1 kilohertz at 16-bit. In addition, Tidal also offers a master's quality offering for pickier audiophiles, which present thousands of albums at 96 kilohertz, 24-bit. So Amazon is trying to go to, I mean, I thought hi-fi, I mean, everything is hi-fi. Way. What are you shaking your head?
It's stupid. I mean, if people are satisfied listening to 64K MP3s, then they're not going to pay $20 a month to hear an audio stream that has been upsampled from a file. That file was recorded at 16-bit, 44 kilohertz. They're going to upsample it to 96 kilohertz. Guess what? It doesn't sound any better.
No, but that's not what they're claiming, Mike. The masters one are claimed to be sampled directly from the masters.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either, but that's what they're claiming.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that if they're streaming everything in 96K, a dramatic number of them will be upsampled to 96K.
Probably.
For consistency. They're not going to sit there and change bit rates during the stream.
I heard Mike only uses FLAC for listening to audio. That's just what I heard, though.
Okay, well, you ought to be careful to whom you listen. There's nothing wrong
And
with
in what
FLAC, by the way.
and in what bitrate?
Well, FLAC is at
No,
44
FLAC is
kilohertz.
fantastic. Yeah.
Huh?
FLAC is fantastic.
Yeah, I think Amazon should stream FLAC files. You talk about not having unlimited data. There goes your data plan.
But isn't that what Tidal does? They don't have a FLAC plan?
I can't imagine.
Or maybe I think there is one streaming service that does that, like lossless compression stuff.
Well, that's what they're talking about. Tidal.
Yeah, but how
are
That's
you
what I
going to
remember.
listen? Are you going to listen to it on what? An Echo Dot?
Yeah, what's wrong with that, Mike? It's got the best speaker.
That's the greatest audio system in the world. That's what I use.
I mean, you could have like a $30,000 Bose system or an Echo for $35.
That's how I listen to Against the Norm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds great. I listen to it on $12 Sennheiser
It's at
headphones.
least as good as the original content source.
Oh yeah, real funny.
96 kilohertz, 24-bit.
So if 48 is good, 96 is gooder, and 192 is goodest, right?
Yeah.
You know what I
There's
find
actually
odd?
evidence to suggest that 192 creates some digital artifacts that actually are actually detract from the audio instead of contribute to it. It turns out that 96 for digital conversions with the current technology is probably optimum.
Mike, wouldn't you make the argument though that if you're a real audiophile, you're not going to be streaming anyway? You'd have your file. You'd
No,
purchase those files, or
no. If you were one of these really rich Democrats in Congress and had money to burn, then you very easily could set up $100,000 stereo system in your house and then stream 96 kilohertz audio. Whether it's streamed or played from a local medium is irrelevant. It would be the highest quality digital that you could get, but the highest quality you're going to get is going to be analog.
it just seems odd to offer a streaming service with audio like that.
Well, it's everything's a gimmick, right?
I guess so.
They're trying to come up with something that will set them aside, I guess.
They
Something-
want to ride the 4K gimmick, right?
Listen. Right, and how many? Go listen to watch a YouTube video and listen to how many people use their webcam microphones
That's
for
what I do.
audio, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. You go in, even I quit watching Dan Bongino because on his audio podcast, he uses, for the techies out there, he uses an RE20 for his microphone for his radio podcast. Sounds great. You then go over and he's now started pumping his YouTube channel because he likes video better than audio. So he's he's saying, see, if you can see this, oh, you'll need to be watching our YouTube channel to see this, which is really a mistake for an audio broadcaster to do. But having said that, he then you click over to the YouTube channel, watch it, and he's got a microphone sitting somewhere about half a mile away from his desk. He's not even using his regular microphone to pick up the audio. And I just can't listen to it. I mean, if they don't have any more concern or care for audio quality than that, then they don't need me as a viewer.
There's a real, you just highlighted a real issue, something Brian and I struggle with the audio listeners versus YouTube and Twitch listeners. We did a survey. We ran it for 3 weeks, and I think we had about 60 people respond to it, and 58 or 59% of them listened to the audio only podcast, which is interesting because we do try to show pictures or video content, but we're trying to figure out the best way to display that stuff, or at least describe it for our audio listeners, because it's tough.
Here's my point. You're either an audio podcast or a video podcast. I would think it would make sense for yours to be declared primarily video.
But 60% of our audience listens to it in their car on audio. It's tough.
Let me finish. But if it turns out that your declaration as to the type you are is inaccurate, then you should consider adjusting.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done. We've made an effort to play, when we're playing videos now, to describe, or at least talk over it instead of just playing.
And to me, it would suggest that you would be very careful to have a way that you could say to your audio listeners, whether it's a pretty links or whatever some of these tricks are, that for our audio listeners, there's no way to describe the way this X interacts with this Y. And what we've done is this segment is available at Infection Podcast / Look at Me.
Yeah. Well, so what we do is on YouTube we have timestamps for everything, as well as full show notes. So if we play a video, you can go and watch it on your own. But
And
it's
I'll
tough.
tell you, show notes are probably the number one reason that lack of show notes, that podcasts don't grow as rapidly as they should. And I would tell you from personal experience, they're probably the number one reason that people stop doing podcasts, because they are a royal pain in the rear end.
What show notes are?
Show notes.
Well, I got to tell you what Brian Aldridge does. He's got to put in at least 2 or 3 hours of work before the show each week. I mean, if you go to our website and look at when we start our show, we've got typically between 2 and 2.5 full pages on a Google Doc worth of news and articles and links to talk about, and he just does.
Yeah,
he does an
but
incredible job.
But Mike is right. It is a pain.
Oh yeah, I couldn't do it. I don't know how he does it.
Well, the golden standard in that type of note taking that I think Gimlet shows, podcast shows. I talked about one of the podcasts, Reply All. They have a full transcript of the show. So what makes it awesome is if you remembered something specifically discussed in the show, a simple Google search will pick up that show
Yeah.
because of the full transcript. So that being said, there are services. My company uses one of them. It's a Microsoft service where the videos. So you have a session recorded on video, where a training session you discuss a bunch of things. The service that the video is uploaded to later for review automatically creates a transcript from the speaker. It's not 100% accurate, but it's good enough to jump within the session to a certain point where something was discussed, and that is mind blowing. I think the where we're at today, right? If you use the right service and you set up a public video stream that transcribes your speech, it's half of the work, more than half of the work already done. So
Yeah.
There's that one service, Amnon, I don't remember the name of it, that's always in the Streaming Idiots group. That's a real-time transcriber, but those post-transcription services are outrageous. They're super, super expensive.
And somebody brought up 4K. Listen to this here. Comcast said its customers' monthly internet data usage increased 34% between the first quarter of 2018 and first quarter of 2019, rising to a median of 200 gigabytes. The rise is being driven by streaming video, and in particular 4K video, Comcast said. The median customer is using only about 20% of Comcast's 1 terabyte data cap, which is enforced in 27 of Comcast's 39 states. But the rise in median usage almost certainly means that more Comcast customers are exceeding the 1 terabyte cap. And it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's great. I'm not giving Spectrum any ideas, I hope, but it's great that they don't have a cap, because those 4K videos, more and more, they will bring it to a point where you're going to be going over your cap and you're going to have to pay more. I know it's coming, but it's still not it's not going to be fun. And are you guys doing anything with 4K? Do you watch 4K?
I don't have a 4K TV.
You do?
I don't.
Oh,
So, no.
well,
I do.
and
And what?
you said you do.
I said I don't know if I have a
Oh,
4K
you don't know.
TV.
Oh,
I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch Fox, and I used to, they're the highest they've ever streamed is for 720. So if it's good enough for a network, I don't need to get to 4K, and I don't watch
right.
movies.
That's the whole point. It's just like what you was talking about music.
But then again, we're older, Amnon. People like Nick don't realize that they're being duped yet, so they're into all that crap.
I was only able to find something I wanted to watch in 480p, and
That's painful.
well, it was, but it wasn't unwatchable.
oh yeah,
And I was watching it on the TV behind me, which is, I don't remember, 38, 42, something like that. But I was only able to find that season available in 480p, and I'd watched all the previous seasons in 720, and I'm watching the current season now in 720. It was noticeably different, but it wasn't unwatchable. So
I guess what I'm saying is the difference between 480 and 720 is dramatic.
Oh, it is.
Difference between 720 and 1080 is noticeable on a big TV. Beyond that, I wouldn't spend 15 cents for the additional improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Mike on this.
Not to say that we shouldn't do it, and I'm glad everything's going that way, but I'm not in favor of video bandwidth outpacing internet.
We've got a guy that we
I am sorry to interrupt you, Nick, but to finish that thought, I'm really tired of wanting to watch something and, oh, we don't have enough bandwidth, and, oh, we're going to have to charge you for more bandwidth, more bandwidth, more. At some point, the availability of bandwidth is going to exceed the capability of producers to stream content. Then I'm all for the improved clarity and the additional bandwidth demanders. But I'm just tired of being held hostage by the cable companies and the internet providers. I mean, it is improving. It's not as bad as it used to be. I remember whenever I first got DSL at 1 meg, I thought I owned the world after dial-up. That
Right.
was the first transition that I ever saw like that, and beyond that, the improvements have been incremental. It goes from 1 meg to where'd we go? 5 meg? When 5 meg went to I don't remember now anymore, but I believe I went from 5 meg to probably 1 gig. I believe that's probably the transition we made because we were one of the first in the area to have,
No, you went to the 200.
no, we never went to 200.
You probably went to 20. Had to have gone to 20.
Never went to 20. In fact, because we went straight from 5. We were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for 20. In fact, I knew you back then, I believe. And at some point, then the AT&T fiber became available in my neighborhood. So I went, I believe, from 5 meg to 1 gig.
We have a guy in our gaming group that has Comcast. He lives in Illinois, I think, and he very frequently can't join us on our Friday night game night because he goes, I don't have enough bandwidth to download this game to play it for 3 hours.
Wow.
Or it's not that he doesn't have the bandwidth, but he doesn't want to piss away the bandwidth for just 3 hours. But I mean that I couldn't do that, man. That would really piss me off.
First world problem.
It is a first world problem, but I mean it is crazy. You make a good point, Mike. Eventually it will. It's eventually something's going to happen.
And the reason I think it will happen is because, again, Nick, at your age, you just don't you know about it, but you don't have the feel for it. I mean, I remember whenever we used to have to count the text messages we would send because of the allocation number of text messages.
That is about the earliest thing I remember not having.
Laughing. I mean, this was a real
unlimited text. I know. Yeah, I know.
And remember when we used to pay for long distance? We used to spend hours looking for the cheapest long distance provider.
Mm-hmm.
So do I think that technology will be such that at some point bandwidth, I mean, right now, rarely does Duke Power say, oh, we need you to hold back using the power this summer because 105-degree temperatures are going to really tax the system. I mean, that does happen, but that's where we need to be on the internet. And that is that it's all the bandwidth you can use, and will it be measured or whatever? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But the fact is that the capacity will eventually exceed the demand.
Hopefully.
I just believe it will. I mean, there's evidence to suggest that that's the way technology progresses. Like the availability of text messages, I mean, who pays for, unless you're going to go really, really, really cheap on a cell phone, which it's a good option that's available. If you only want 10 hours a month of cell phone usage for $10 a month, go for it. That's a great thing. But as far as using it every day, getting rid of your home phone, I mean, what if you have to sit there and figure out how many minutes you've used this month because you need to decide whether to call your grandmother or whatever? I mean, that's just stupid.
I don't even think anybody offers that anymore.
Yeah, there are actually some interesting cell phone providers out there. One is, I believe, is called Ting, Ting.
Very popular on YouTube.
Another one is called Consumer Cellular.
Mhm.
They have some really limited, dirt cheap accounts that I believe, in fact, one day maybe we ought to dig through the plans and see what's available, because If I ever decide to quit working, I very easily could go with a $10 a month cell phone because I don't want anybody calling me.
Oh, I do see that. Yeah, Ting does. Yeah, that's the first question I ask you. How many minutes do you need to talk? Interesting.
And the another reason is that could also be very useful. For example, let's say that you have a you're part of an organization or you're part of you have a small business that you want to have its own unique identity and you're not going to have very much usage of it. You want the cell phone sitting on your desk. I mean, that would be one possibility. I mean, another way of doing it is getting a Google Voice number. There are lots of ways to do it. But the reality is that there is probably a need for these stripped down limited services. And I'm all for limits on those. You get what you pay for. But when you look at how much money I'm paying for cell phones each month, it's ridiculous. And particularly since we have 10 gig of data between 5 people.
I just did my estimated bill on Ting. It says my cell phone bill will be $64 a month.
What are you paying?
5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. 60. They screw you on the data. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But
and that's the part where maybe it's going to be with 5G that they're going to have so much capacity. It's just going to be gamesmanship to charge you for the data, and then eventually competition should win out.
And frankly, the thing that I find bullshit, at least on Ting's website, is they say the average person buys between 101 and 500 megabytes of data. That is grossly inaccurate. There's not a chance.
I don't agree with you.
500 megabytes of data a month?
I am telling you that even seeing in my family to see what people use, they just don't burn that much data. And when you consider how many people have data plans that use none of it, you're looking at an average, Nick.
Yeah, that's crazy. With iMessage and FaceTime and all that other stuff, I don't see how you couldn't. If you use your phone regularly, I don't know how you couldn't. Maybe you're always. Maybe you work from home. Yeah, I guess so.
Nick, you can go to your cell provider to the website and see how much you're using.
I know how much I use. I use plenty.
Yeah, but you don't count.
Why?
Why? Because you'll do a remote broadcast for the radio station over your cell phone. There are not a lot of people who do that, Nick.
Why would I be put in a situation to do that, Mike? That's crazy. I'd say something like that.
I know, because you're such a delightful person.
Yeah, I think I use
because you think it's because you really, really appreciate the microphones on your iPhone and you're an audiophile.
Yeah, that's what I do. I stream all my FLAC files. That's why I'm burning through all my data.
Are you dogging on FLAC files?
No, I'm just making a joke.
You need to be, because I'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with FLAC.
I have a whole bunch of FLAC files.
FLAC is indecipherable from a WAV file. You can actually do a FLAC to WAV conversion, and the WAV file will match bit for bit with the original WAV file that it was derived from. It's a true lossless conversion.
Alan says he uses about 1 gigabyte a month. Yeah, I guess I'm against the norm.
Yeah.
That was a shameless plug.
Yeah. That's all I can do.
All right, time's up.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It's that time of day.
Toodaloo.
Any last words from anybody?
Gene wanted to know if you got the picture of your koi pond he took.
Yeah, I did, and you got it too, I think.
But he didn't ask me. He asked you.
He sent it to everybody.
I got it, but he didn't ask me. He asked you. It says Amnon.
Yeah.
Did you get the pic of the koi pond I sent?
Yeah, and I said I did. And I said I did.
I responded right below it.
Yeah, and first I didn't recognize it because it was upside down.
Mike ran out of data. Actually, he couldn't see Amnon's message. That was the last message in chat.
So I see Gene, John, Alan, me, Alan, John, Amnon. Have a good one. Not in mine, jackass.
You really don't see his message there?
I do not.
Really?
Come on.
All right.
What do you see right below his?
I have is Gene. Amnon, did you get the pic of your koi pond I sent? Next one is John. I think everyone should.
Oh no, mine is in between there.
You just discovered a bug in the chat, client.
Oh, there's a bunch of bugs. Anyway.
Wow.
All right.
You've been blacklisted, Mike. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
All right, guys. That was great. Thanks, Nick, Gal, Mike. It was very, very good. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9. But you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Tonight at 7, and I'm assuming here, Nick Craig hosts Against the Norm. Yes, Nick?
Yep.
And at 9, it's Mike Phillips hosting the Crypto Culture Show. Both these shows are on Wilmington Big Talker 106.7 FM, and you can listen on TuneIn. See you next week, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.